From San Antonio, Texas, home of the Alamo, the Riverwalk, and the World Heritage San Antonio Missions, this is the Exit Planning Coach podcast with John F. Dini. Designed to help advisors who work with business owners, John talks with top professionals in the exit planning field about best practices, marketing tips, and how to be more effective when working with owners. Now, here's John F. Dini.
Hi, and welcome back to the Exit Planning Coach podcast today. My guest today is Bob Oliver, the president of the ROC Group. Bob helps companies maximize business value and income and establish their succession and exit strategies by improving their profits, their cash flow, and their intangible assets, which increase the value of the business. Bob's unique approach utilizes a strategic business operating system to keep businesses focused, drive results, and improve communications. He uses a value enhancement system, which looks across 18 business value drivers, and an exit planning system to prepare owners and executives to transition out of their business. Welcome today, Bob. It's a pleasure to see you again.
Thanks, John. Nice to see you.
And how is the weather? You're up in Wisconsin. How is the weather up there?
It's absolutely beautiful today, about 80 and sunny. We had a hot streak a couple days ago. I think we have another hot streak coming, but absolutely beautiful today.
I'm envious. We're in about our 75th day this year of over 100 degrees down here in San Antonio.
Wow.
So, Bob, what led you to your decision to work with business owners on their exit planning?
Great question, John. About 6 years ago, I ran into a business owner, happened to be a 70-year-old woman that her husband had passed away a year prior, sadly enough, and she ended up trying to run the business by herself. And she approached me, and I found out she really needed some help. And I found out how ill-prepared they were for transitioning out of their business. The business was very dependent on the owner that passed away, and then just a ton of other systems and things that they didn't have in place. And then as I researched it, I found out how big that need is with a lot of baby boomers looking to get out. So I decided to pursue it, and here I am today.
So true. Yeah, I actually got into exit planning because I was a business broker.
Okay.
And very similar experience, except multiple times.
Sure.
You're going into a business, people saying, I'm ready to sell my business. And you walk in, you take a look and go, oh, no, you're not.
Yeah. And sadly enough, the statistics are really low on how many privately held businesses actually sell their business.
That's true. That's true. Even IBBA, the International Business Brokers Association, admits that their batting average for their brokers is about 1 in 5.
Yeah.
And owners are so astonished when I tell them that number. You know, they think that they just, you plant a sign in the front lawn and you say for sale, and people line up and you interview them and decide which one you want to sell to.
Right. Not like selling a house, is it, John?
No, not very much. Not very much, unless that's your experience, because it hasn't been mine.
Hasn't been mine.
So when you first get called into a client, who would be that client? Is it somebody that said, I want to exit, or is it somebody that's just thinking about it, or is it somebody that's run on hard times? People get calls for all different reasons, but what does your typical client call you up for?
Most of the time, it's kind of all the above. It's a client needs some help. Usually comes from one of my relationships or one of my connectors, and or one of my past clients per se. And they call with a need, and I go in and I listen to the client to find out where their needs are and try and meet their needs. And a lot of times that'll lead to some type of engagement, which usually leads to that discussion about when do they want to transition out of the business. So I also do webinars. Every month I do a webinar, and that's starting to lead to some clients too.
Great. So when you get a referral from, let's say, a past client,
sure.
What are you hoping they say about you?
In all reality, I don't look for them to say anything in particular. I like to find out what their need is, and then I try and meet their need. Uh, from an exit standpoint, I'd
No, I
love
mean
them to
a
say,
past client that's had experience with you.
"Oh, what's a past client say about
Yeah,
me?"
when they're
Oh,
referring you. Yeah.
Um, when they're referring me, they're usually telling them that I'll say, probably humble, hungry, and people smart. So, uh, I'm hungry to solve their problems. I try and meet them at their needs in a humble way. And I like to think I work with people well. And that's what they usually say about me too. So.
Okay. And how would you open this? And this is a question I usually ask at the end, but I'll ask it right now. So I'm a new exit planner. I've decided that I want to do this with existing business owner clients, and somebody calls up and says, "Oh, you told me what you did the other day, and I just met a business owner that says he's thinking about exiting." And I'm going out to this business owner and I'm having my first meeting with him. What do I say to convince him that exit planning is something he should be doing?
Um, I usually try and give them some statistics. The one we just talked about, the success of people exiting. I like to talk to them about their profit gap, value gap, and wealth gap, and where they're at. I like to talk to them about. I suggest they talk to them about the dependency of the business on the owner, how diversified the business is, all the big hitters that really show that the business may or may not be ready to sell. And then I also suggest they talk to them about, understanding what creates the value of a business.
You know, you just said something there that I want to stick with for a moment. I'm writing it down. It's coincidental. I had one of my employees come to me today and say, "Gee, in my finance class, I just had a uh, a class on the difference between cash flow, retained earnings, and profits, and I'm beginning to get it."
Mm-hmm.
So, you said the difference between the profit gap, the wealth gap, and the value gap. How do you define those three?
Uh, the profit gap is what kind of profit the business is making and how they compare to best in class. There's
Okay.
lots of databases we can look at. And then the value gap is, what their current value may be or range of values on their company may be compared to best in class companies. Usually companies will have, and I like to use a multiple of EBITDA. There's many ways to do it. There's cash flow, there's assets, there are other ways to look at it. But it's easy for me to teach companies how to look at it from a multiple of EBITDA standpoint. So we'll look at that, and some companies EBITDA could be as low as zero. They're just not, really ready to sell or have value because of their situation. And then wealth gap is where are they at in how much money they need to retire, and how much money do they have, and how much money are they expecting out of the business.
That's great. I haven't, obviously we all in planning look at those three things, but I haven't heard that it phrased that way before with the three gaps. I like that. Although I
Sure.
promise not to steal it in our materials.
Well, I that was part of, so I'm certified from the Exit Planning Institute,
Mm-hmm.
and they use that terminology, and I've stuck with it. I think it's a good way to talk about
No, I'm certified by them too. I shouldn't probably didn't pay attention to that class that day. uh, um, you one of the questions when we discussed ahead of time, you said your practice was unique. What makes your practice unique?
Well, it's really the approach I take. So I take a holistic approach. I've worked across businesses and all the way at different levels, including executive. I've owned my own companies. Um, and so I look across the business. And it's just a combination of what I do. So you talked a little bit about it at the beginning, but I look at their financials. I take their financials and I put it into a nice, easily readable report and help them understand what their financials are telling them from P&L, profit and loss, balance sheet, and cash flow. And there's not a lot of people doing that. And I find a big need for that service. Then I add in a service on business operating system, which is basically a strategic planning and execution system with an emphasis on executing. Too many companies aren't getting focused enough, so they're just not getting enough done. So I always ask them, do you want to get 20% of 20 things done, or do you want to get 80% of 10 things done? Pretty easy answer, right? You want to get 8 things done instead of 4. And then, of course, I add in the tools to look at 18 drivers that drive value in business. So in an accelerated growth mode, we use those to decide on what to work at. I also coach businesses on creating value more than anything else. All this time, a lot of them are being coached on just maximizing income and reducing taxes. And that doesn't really lead to growing a business and really having the value that you want at retirement age. And then last of all, I use the ExitMap tool to help companies set up transition and succession plans, whether it's a year out or 3 years out or 10 years out. And I always say start early because you can never start early enough.
Yeah, true enough. True enough. So many times I've had a business owner say to me, I want to sell my company. What can I do to make it worth more? And the answer is what you should have been doing for the last 10 years or so.
Yeah. And, for me, it's just there's a big need for coaches out there to help these businesses out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me take a break here for a second so we can pay for the show, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks.
How would your practice survive if only 25% of your clients were happy with your work? How many referrals would you get? Would you advertise that success rate? Over the last decade, both the Exit Planning Institute and PwC have surveyed owners and found that 75% were profoundly unhappy a year after their exits. In 10 years, the exit planning industry has done little to fix this issue. Business owners need purpose, direction, and activity after exiting. Planning for that starts with your very first coaching conversation. We work with advisors who believe that clients should be happy after exiting. ExitMap is a structured discovery process that helps you have deeper conversations about client options, objectives, and life after the business. We help you launch better transitions. Take a test drive at exitmap.com.
We're back with Bob Oliver, and I wanted to ask him, we were talking about the 3 gaps. I really like that, the profit gap, the wealth gap, and the value gap. But before that, we were talking a little bit about marketing. You were talking about your centers of influence, the other professionals that refer to you. And then you mentioned webinars.
Sure.
What do you have a set of topics? What do you talk about in your webinars? How do you promote them? How do people find them? Just tell us a little bit about that, if you would.
Sure. The webinars is actually something I just added. I do 4 webinars and I do 1 a month. So I do, and then I rotate those 4 webinars 3 times a year. One's on just in general exit planning and transition planning. The next one is, being personally ready and what it takes to be personally ready. And then I talk next about getting their estate in order. And then the last one is on maximizing business value. And so right now, those are all on my website. And then I have my centers of influence like banks, wealth managers, CPAs will refer people to watch those webinars. I also do a lot of work with local economic development people. and they help promote those too.
That's interesting. The EDC folks, small business development, those kind of folks,
Yes.
um, they're usually working with very new and young businesses. So exit planning is usually not on their mind. I know you said you can never start too early, and I certainly agree.
Yeah.
When you go in and somebody says that, this person started this company and they don't know how to make it profitable enough or something, you work with them. Do you also talk to them about exit planning?
Yeah, always. I always talk to companies about exit planning. Doesn't matter what size they are, because to me, if they're going to put all the time and energy into building a business, I would hope that they'd want to be able to try and get something out of that business when they look to actually retire.
And if you do, how do you convert them into an exit planning client? How do they become willing to start talking about that seriously? Because, we all know I've worked with a lot of small business owners that are new in their career and they're no time for that now. I'm too busy
Yeah,
building my business.
right. Usually, what I try and do is I try and get them to take uh, 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 an assessment that's offered through ExitMap, a great little assessment.
Okay.
And then I give them a free hour of what's that assessment telling us about their business. Uh, and usually with that, I find that a lot of them decide they want to engage based on what they find out. And it's quick and easy to do. So I always recommend they look at doing that assessment.
Okay. What would you consider an ideal client relationship?
Um, Ideally, I love long-term clients.
Other
Uh,
than rich. We all know rich is a prerequisite.
yeah. So for exit planning, I like to work with businesses that are 10 million and less, preferably 3 to 10 years out. But I'll work with them if they're a year out. If there's something we can get done under a year, it's tough to get something done,
Agreed.
and get them, maybe button up a couple things. On the holistic coaching stuff, it's just someone that really wants to grow their business and set it up for a great transition.
You say your centers of influence point people to your webinars and stuff. How do you get exposure with them?
Um, I attend a lot of functions and or have so prior to getting into exit planning, and I was in consulting and I was doing a lot of business development. So I got to know a lot of people in a lot of centers of influence. Um, and then just getting out in the community and meeting with them and talking to them and letting them know what I'm doing and trying to collaborate with them. So I try and bring it both directions, right? I try and help them find clients and they help me find clients. I believe in today's world, crazy world that we're in, we need more collaboration and more unity. So
Sure.
that's what I try and bring with the people I work with.
You're not moving to Washington anytime soon, are you? That would
No,
no.
I think I'll avoid that.
We could use some of that attitude. A little more collaboration. It's funny. We do, as you know, we do the National Exit Planners Survey, and in 2020, we didn't even have personal networking as one of the marketing methodologies because we were all like locked down. So
Yeah,
this year, when we surveyed what happened in 2021, it not only made the radar, it was number one with a bullet. Everybody said, "I just want to get out and do personal networking."
yeah, yeah.
You know,
And the good news is, I mean, if anything came out of the pandemic, that it's the ability to have more podcasts and do stuff like this via the internet. I do when I do exit planning with clients, I usually meet with them for the first meeting, and then we do a bunch of virtual meetings, and then I meet with them at the end. But the good news is we can now do exit planning for anywhere in the world because of the openness to the video conferencing.
Great. I was going to ask you what region you tended to work in the United States. You work everywhere?
I mainly worked in the Midwest, but depending on what people need, I'll work anywhere in the U.S. for sure. I won't say the world quite yet.
Well, they have to speak English because, unfortunately, I'm only semi-lingual, so
Yep,
um,
same here.
I speak a half a language, and that one not too well. Uh, it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned the power of remote, though. My biggest activity right now is I'm doing transaction support with a business owner that has two LOIs in front of him,
Sure.
and we're negotiating with both of them. And he happens to be in Wisconsin, right up in your backyard.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
it is, and I would have never imagined that before COVID.
Yeah,
If somebody called me up, it was a matter of did I want to get onto a plane to go there or not.
sure.
And now the plane never occurs to me.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, we're talking about next month, if the deal goes forward and we're in the middle of the purchase agreement, the buyers want to fly in and meet him, and I'm going to fly in and meet him, hopefully at least 5 minutes before they do, because I've never met him face to face other than on video.
Well, you get near Eau Claire, Wisconsin, look me up.
Okay, okay. Eau Claire is water of what?
Eau
Do you
Claire
know?
is what?
Well, eau is water, I know, in French.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
what Claire is.
Eau Claire,
Um,
we're about 60 miles east of Minneapolis, Minnesota.
oh, okay, up there. All right. I can't help but I look at the name of that town and I always think of those long chocolate things with the cream inside.
Used to get those as kids all the time.
Yeah. Um, you're clearly a value enhancement guy. I mean, that's as
Yep.
opposed to finance or taxes or something. Tell me how would other advisors reach you if they want to bring you in on a planning team?
Sure. Several ways. First, more than happy to take a text or phone call. Number is 715-226-0718. Again, 715-226-0718. Or they can reach me by email at bob.oliver, Oliver, at the rock, which is ROC, group, which is GRP.com. So bob.oliver at therockgroup.com.
Great.
Or they can look at my website, which is just www.therockgroup.com. Again, rock is ROC and group is GRP.
Great. Rock being Robert Oliver something, I'm guessing?
Consulting
Consulting. Okay,
or
great.
coaching.
Or coaching or whatever,
Whatever. I
whatever
used it.
the,
I worked with marketing team and they said, most people doing what you do find that it's just easier to use your name. And then I like to think I bring foundational business solutions to clients, thus the rock.
oh, good, good. Well, it has been a pleasure talking to you today, Robert. I hope you will come back and we'll do this again. As we get further into the podcast, we'll start focusing on particular issues that advisors and owners have. But in the meantime, I really appreciate you taking the time with us, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks, John. Really appreciate you and appreciate what the Exit Map is doing for us advisors.
Okay, thanks. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.